First, it was the way he tossed a mule into the pack of wolves, aka the rabid enthusiasts. Still haven't recovered from that, and truthfully, I'm still waiting for the next shoe to drop with how he'll screw over our bunny pal. But Bilac, man, killed, rip. The fact that Sunraku, honestly, that's not the reaction I would expect Sunraku to give if he legitimately thought he killed one of these NPCs. Because it's not just like it's a random NPC, like he has a legitimate connection with these characters now, and he's just like, oh shit, rip. Sunraku just casually, I have to imagine the NPCs respond this way because the game developers do, because just Sunraku is doing things, and just so, like, I feel like this is the equivalent of, like, making friends in a video game with, say, like, not really the starting town blacksmith, but maybe a couple towns over, right? So you're a little bit into the video game, so you're not getting, like, the default bitch gear, and just randomly one day you drop mithril ore, and they're used to working with, like, iron ingots and shit. Yeah, realistically, they probably would have a heart attack, because from their points of view, have they ever really worked with that shit? It's just like giving cardiac arrest to these innocent fuzzballs, man. A mule got her face squished, almost had to go to the ER. Sunraku, you know, we need some animal wellness in this world, and to check on if he's an appropriate pet owner, because this man's got some issues. I got full live reactions over on Patreon. If you want to see my full link of thought to it is Shangri-La greatness. You know it's over there exclusively. So this was another pretty heavy 3D episode. This time we're focusing on kind of like a Gundam style video game. To me, this is kind of what I imagine if we had VR to this degree. Like eventually Bandai Namco or someone would make like a Gundam game like this. That's basically what it is. Because Sunraku, despite getting his battery pack made, can't do shit. Basically has the shattering realization that he can't do anything until he gets the mark removed. So what does he do? Well, like what anyone would do. I'll go get blackjack and hookers somewhere else. So he plays a different game, but this time not a trash video game, one he actually legitimately enjoys. And this has always been something I and many have really enjoyed about this show, is that when we say Shangri-La Frontier feels like it's written by someone who understands video games, it's not simply just because of the Shangri-La video game, it's the gamer mindset in general. And despite people having their main game or a game they're focusing on for months, yeah, we play other video games. And the fact that they're willing to go and show a completely different visual style for a completely different video game, it's just honestly really impressive. And there was a lot of 3D. Now, I'm someone who quite enjoys the 3D Crystal Scorpions. Most people recognize why those have to be 3D, just given the amount of shininess and reflections and just moving parts. It's understandable, but I think because of the design, it's very easy to overlook their 3D a lot just because of the way they're textured. This, not so much. It basically functions like a lot of 3D in any sort of mecha anime. A third of it looked okay, a third of it looked pretty decent, and then a third of it looked god-awful. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like, one of the first shots, it's very... The best way to describe it is sometimes when watching it, it kind of reminded me of, like, you know how if you were to play, like, I don't know, like a PS1, an original Xbox game, and you put it on your big screen today, because you're used to playing probably on the 12-inch, the 20-inch, and you putting it on the 40, 50, 60-inch 4K TVs, and how it just, like, stretches and it becomes extra grainy. Like, that's kind of how it felt. Movement-wise, great. The movement has never been an issue when any 3D's been on screen. It can just be about how noticeable it is with texturing. And like I said, sometimes I liked it, sometimes I hated it, but at the end of the day, I can say this. I always understand when 3D's on screen why it's 3D. A lot of moving parts, a lot of shit going on here. I get it. And I truly expect that when we get to the big important fights, like whatever the Weathermon fight will be this season, that's just going to be gas. It's just going to be perfection. And the thing is, right, would I have preferred 2D in this case? Yes. Would I have preferred 2D with the Scorpions? No. Might be a little jarring for some people to hear. Scorpions, I really think, are perfect the way they are. This is one of those cases where I can see where it could be better. The thing is the show's not running into production issues. And the big reason you can see why, when a show's running into production issues, you start noticing even the smaller moments getting a downgrade. Sunraku and all these characters, as soon as they're outside their bots and just are interacting, the movement's just as fluid, just as expressive, and it's never really stiff. Therefore, when 3D is on screen, it's because it has to be 3D. And when I say it has to be, it's not like they couldn't draw this in 2D. It just would take a lot of time, and there's clearly going to be a fight that's more worth, because I don't know what it is, but I just hear rumblings that there's going to be like something potentially even topping Weathermon this season. You know, depending on which fans you ask. Some fans say that would be season 3. Other fans saying there's a fight that does it in season 2. Either way, if that's going to last multiple episodes, I'd much rather them put extra effort in that and make something that's decent or okay in the form of whatever we got here, right? That's just how I'm feeling. And in return, you get something that's enjoyable. I mean, the game looked fun. And for Sunraku, this was one of his few games that he legitimately enjoys, hasn't played it for a few months. And, you know, we go up against Ballman. I don't know how you forget a man with a name like that, but that's a gamer tag I wouldn't forget. And honestly, the fight was pretty cool. I liked, this is what I mean. Like, immediately you get the impression, like, okay, when a game's shit in this world, I can both see why I would never play it and want to play it, and when a game's decent or good, I'm like, yo, yeah, I would play that. This isn't like my type of video game for prolonged periods of time, but if I had VR to this degree, I'd absolutely play something like this. I think back in Season 1 when they played that glitchy video game, the one that had no patches, and they continuously found ways to exploit bugs to become the most powerful, I look at that and I say, that's ass, but I understand why I'd absolutely get addicted to breaking that video game. The show understands gamers, and I think one of the charming factors early on was that we latched on to the fact that it's more than one game. They actually play more than one game. And while yes, a prolonged period of time will be set in the Shangri-La game, at the same time, they know how to kind of break away from the mold. And honestly, as much as it kind of some people might want to say, oh, Sunraku's just pulling a temper tantrum because he didn't get his way. Bitch, that's what video games do to people. The number of times, I'm not going to say it's a common thing, but I can at least count on one hand a handful of times that I have grinded for something in a video game, like grinded, only to realize that it was either pointless because it wasn't as good as I thought it was, or I needed something else, or I couldn't use it as it stands. You pick up some Halo or Call of Duty at that point. You go to a different video game, right? Like, that's what we do as gamers. Shangri-La is remaining to be one of my favorites that I'm watching, and honestly, I don't know if it'd be a Season 2 or a Season 3, but the more I watch this, the more I start to realize that this might end up becoming like a top 10 anime for me. It clicks with me in every right way, and even when it's not exactly what I want, maybe visually, I never am mad at how it is visually, you know what I mean? Let me know your thoughts, feelings down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we got Clay Samuel, Hayden, Cody Nemeller, Thomas Smith, and Oris Lopez. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.